Hello, good evening. My name is Ivan. I'm a farm worker, and myself and my friends and other farm workers, we have a lot of unanswered questions that we would really like to know more about the vaccination and how it works. My family depend on my income. If we have side effect after getting the vaccine and have to take some time off work, do we get paid for those days? Does that pay come from the boss, or do we have to apply for it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And very recently, the Ontario government announced that they're going to bring in paid sick days if you need to take time off due to COVID. But and that includes if you have to take time off to get a vaccine, or if you get a side effect from getting a vaccine.
Okay, my next question. Is the vaccine mandatory? If my boss is saying he won't hire us back next year if we don't take the vaccine, if we don't get vaccinated, my bad. What can I do about it?
Yeah, so the vaccines are not mandatory. The government's not going to force you to take the vaccine, and your boss certainly can't force you to take the vaccine. So you have that choice. You know, if you decide that vaccine isn't right for you, you don't have to take it. Your question about, well, what if my boss says, well, I'm not going to bring you back then? That's technically illegal. Your boss can't punish you because you stood up for your health and safety rights. So if you're not taking a vaccine because you're worried about your health, then the boss can't punish you for that. But what if boss does it anyways, right? What we would tell, what I would recommend if the boss tries to fire you or does fire you or punishes you, if that happens, since they shouldn't be doing it, try to record that conversation where they're firing you or punishing you or yelling at you or whatever. If you can't record it because you didn't have your phone with you or whatever, then as soon as you're able to, write it down. Write down exactly what happened. And then contact a place like MWAC, right? And, they could try to help you as much as you can before you are put on a plane back or, whatever happens, right? So I think it's very, very important that you document it and you talk to somebody as soon as the boss does something that he shouldn't or they shouldn't be doing. Ultimately, right, like what I think workers need so that they feel comfortable standing up for their rights is that they need status upon arrival so that they can
Yes.
stay in Canada, and so that they're not afraid of being sent back home because they stood up for their rights, and they could even if they get fired, they can stay here, they can look for a new job. I think that's what we really, really need.
I am on a 2-year contract. My boss told me I can't take my vacation to visit my family unless I get vaccinated. What are my rights, my option?
They can't prevent you from taking your vacation just because you won't get vaccinated. Uh, your boss or your employer has no right to pressure you to get vaccinated, or by saying, well, if you don't get vaccinated, we're not going to give you this, or you can't get that, things like that. That's punishment too. So I kind of the same answer with the vaccine question, whether it's mandatory or not, is you have the right to take your vacation, whether or not you get vaccinated. But if the boss doesn't respect that, again, you need proof that the boss is not following the law. record it, write it down, tell someone you trust about what happened, contact MWAC, and hopefully, you'll be able to fight back.
Thank you. That totally clear up a lot of stuff that a lot of us as farm workers like to know. I want to know what I'm putting in my body and what actually in the vaccine.
In order to answer that question, I think I'm actually going to tell you how the vaccine works, and then I'll come back and I think it will put it in better context to know what is actually going in your body. First of all, there are two types of vaccines. There's the messenger RNA vaccine, and then there's the viral vector vaccine. There's Pfizer and Moderna are the messenger RNA vaccines, and Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca are the viral vector vaccines. The messenger RNA is actually in the vaccine, and it's a small piece of genetic material that really instructs your body to produce a small part of the COVID virus. So it's actually a protein that's part of the COVID virus. Now, because it's a small part of it, it's not dangerous and it's not going to cause any harm. The protein that your body now produces because of seeing the messenger RNA, your body now identifies this protein as being foreign. And as a result, it develops antibodies towards the protein. And these antibodies are now what are going to protect you from the COVID virus if you are exposed to it in the future. The viral vector vaccine, basically the way this works is there's a weak virus, right? So it is a virus just like the COVID virus, but it's weak. It's not going to cause severe harm. Part of the DNA is in the virus, and then this virus gets into your cells of the body. Once it gets into the cells, then that weak virus essentially disappears. And then the small part of the COVID virus DNA, your body now sees it, develops antibodies, and it's these antibodies, again, that are going to protect you from infection in the future. When you actually do see the COVID virus, the antibodies are there ready to attack the virus. Now, in order to stabilize this messenger RNA, so that it works, the vaccine also contains a small amount of fats and salts and sugars. They're all very benign and not serious. I mean, it's a very, very small amount, but just enough in order to make sure that the messenger RNA is preserved and stored so that it works when it's actually inside the body. And then the viral vector vaccine contains this weak virus with the small part of the DNA of the COVID virus in it, and then also some salts and sugars and a very small amount of alcohol. Again, those are substances in order to preserve the vaccine. It's important for people to realize, what's in the vaccine is safe, and all the science and the technology has been developed for many, many years. It's just that this was now the opportunity to put it to actual use.
What is the point of the vaccine if it doesn't prevent me from catching the virus and I still have to wear a mask and do physical distancing?
The vaccine does not prevent the COVID virus from getting into the body. The vaccine prevents the virus from actually attacking and infecting the body because of the antibodies that are being produced as a result of the vaccine. Someone can still be exposed to the virus and have the virus in their body. It's just not causing any harm. Now, because it's in the body, though, although it may not be causing harm, it can be passed on. Someone can pass on the virus to someone else. And if that other person has not been vaccinated and therefore doesn't have the protection, then they can get infected and get sick. We still need to wear masks and physically distance until we know that enough people around us are also vaccinated and therefore are also protected. So that day will come. We're just not there yet.
We all have to understand that and understand how it works for sure, so we can protect ourselves and others. So that is really important. What if the vaccine make me sick? How do we know is it safe and there won't be a harmful long-term effect?
Many people will feel some soreness in their arm, in the upper part of their arm where it's injected into. That'll go away after a couple of days. Some people may experience a flu-like reaction. So sort of fever, chills, body aches, headache. In some people, it's very mild. In some people, it is severe. But even when it's severe, it's short lasting. It usually goes away after anywhere from 1 to 3 days. People can have an allergic reaction. Now, it is very, very rare for people to have an allergic reaction to the vaccine, because what someone is reacting to is not the messenger RNA or is not the virus. It's actually those components that I mentioned that are put in the vaccine in order to stabilize and to preserve the vaccine. And then there is the potential possibility of blood clots. And so there's been a lot of media attention around this issue of blood clots. They are very rare. When it does happen, it's with the, at this point, it's being reported with the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And so these blood clots can occur either in the brain or in the lungs. Blood clots are potentially very, very serious, but I think it's important to realize just how rare that adverse reaction is. So far, there have been no reported long-term side effects from receiving the vaccine. Now, granted, we're only less than a year out from receiving the vaccine, and that will be very closely monitored over time. But so far, there have not been any concerns about any long-term adverse effects from the vaccine.
That is a very important answer. And that definitely give me a clearer look on what it's all about. My fifth and final question. How do we know the vaccine information is true? Who can we call if we have more question about the vaccination process?
I think I'm really just going to highlight one trusted source, and that is the Center for Disease Control, or CDC for short. It's located in the United States of America in Atlanta, and it is a highly reputable, so it is a leader in the area of infectious disease and vaccines, and they've been around for many, many, many years. A lot of the guidelines and the protections and public health safety measures, particularly in the States, have come about as a result of recommendations from the Center for Disease Control. The Public Health Department is the place that I would recommend that you actually get in contact with, because they are a wealth of information and they have experts and lots of resources to be able to provide answers and questions. One other source that I'm going to personally recommend, I'm part of the Black Physicians Association of Ontario, and on our website we have resource information, including videos from town halls that we've had where people have asked sort of questions to address their concerns. BPAO, Black Physicians Association of Ontario.
That is really, really good. I really like that because I didn't know nothing about that. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks for watching, and remember, the vaccine is just one way that we can keep ourselves safe while we unite together and fight for equal rights and justice. Nobody is protected unless we're all protected, and that means full and permanent immigration status for all. If you're a migrant worker in Canada looking for support, contact us at the numbers on your screen. Everything you share is private and confidential.